Yeah, good afternoon, all. Can you see my screen?
We're all
Yes.
seeing at
Yes,
least.
we can see.
Yes, we can see.
We can see, sir.
Very
Can
clear.
see.
that's fine. Okay, distinguished colleagues, Director, Center for Polytechnic Advancement and Career Studies, all participants of this very, very important training, which I've also been following from time to time. Good afternoon to you all. As introduced, I'm Dr. Mubarak Lehman, the Director of Research and Innovation, Nuba Mali Polytechnic Zaria, and I'm here to present our training for today. The topic title, Research Grant Writing, Funding Opportunities and Competitive Proposal Development. So before actually going afar, let us see what sorry, please, I missed something. Can you still see my slides?
Yes, we are
Hello?
seeing it.
Yes, we are seeing.
We are seeing it. We are seeing it. sir.
Come on, Mr. Chim. Sorry. Chim.
A moment, please. I lost it. I'm trying to recover it back. Sorry, please. I lost my view. Yeah, I lost. I cannot see my screen, the shared screen. That's why I'm trying to get it back. I'm only seeing my own screen. Okay, let me do this. Let me know what this one. Let me do it again. Okay, can you see it now? Hello? Hello.
We can see it, sir. We can
Okay.
see it, sir.
Sorry, please. I actually lost the full screen and I was trying to regain it back, and it was a little bit challenging. Sorry, participants. So starting. So continuing with the first thing to start with actually is our workshop objectives for today. And the objectives are as shown: to introduce the basic of research grant writing, to explore various funding opportunities, national and international, to understand how to align research ideas with funders' expectations, and to learn tips and tools for successful grant application. So my presentation outline actually were in two parts. The presentation will be in two sessions. Part one would be introduction to research grant writing and funding opportunities. Then part two will be developing a competitive research proposal for grants. So, and we are going to take we'll take the first one and have a small interlude and possibly a poll, then we take the second presentation. So, going first with the part one, introduction to research grant writing and funding opportunities. So, let's begin first by asking ourselves, what is a research grant in the first place? So, as we all know, research grant is a financial support to provide funding by an organization which might be governmental, non-governmental, private, philanthropic, etc., to just fund research activity. And for what purpose? To solve problems, expand knowledge, innovate, and possibly inform policy. So generally, grants are given for a purpose. Grants are not just given as a largesse or just as a fund to maybe enrich the researchers. But the idea behind all funding is actually to solve either a problem, to either promote knowledge, or to innovate new ideas, or either to get ideas or knowledge that will inform or direct funding for the funders. So example of such maybe is that we all commonly know is the TETFund NRF grant, order to study sustainable irrigation techniques in northern Nigeria, for example, as a topic. And members will agree with me that almost all of us as researchers need research funding or need research grants. In fact, ability to attract research grants or research funding used to be among one of the key criteria that are being used to assess the success of a researcher or a success of an academic, even when it comes to appointment in important positions or leadership positions. And that helps also propel the researcher in his various field of endeavors or where he chooses himself to actually advance in his own research careers. And I believe all of us will agree that a number of us are finding it very, very difficult to access these grants. And usually we feel that these grants are not there. Grants are actually available. Each month, each year, each week, there are grant fundings rolling out. Funders are providing funding. It's only for us to access. But definitely, the accessing of grants requires a lot of skills and grantmanship for you to be able to access. So, why apply then for research grants? Why should we apply for research grants? Because for us to really develop a good grantmanship, we should know what is our purpose of even requesting or applying for research grants. So, first, maybe is to access resources and funding actually that we need the resources and funding, which is primarily what most people actually are seeking grants for, that we just need the resources and funding to derive our research ideas or our innovative ideas or our projects that will be able to actually allow us get a number of results that we can publish and actually propel ourselves in our academic careers. Then also opportunity for collaboration and networking. Yes, you can seek for grant funding because you wanted to expand or promote your collaboration and networking opportunities with other actually researchers that are your peers, so that you can be able to develop a very set of the art maybe research outcomes, which without funding you will not be able to develop. Then career advancement and academic recognition, which is a very, very important reason why most people seek for research grants, because with the research grants, you can be able to really, really advance your career by having novel researches being carried out, having excellent publications, and also just the fact that you've won a grant or you are able to attract a grant is something that actually promotes you in your career and also provides academic recognition for you as a researcher or as an academic. Then infrastructure and institutional development. There are certain grants that are sought simply because we wanted to develop or provide infrastructure. For example, we want to set up a new lab or a new workshop in a polytechnic or a university, and we need funding for us to do that. A research grant can simply do that and can provide such funding. Example, a staff member who received Welcome Trust grant was able to establish a lab for molecular biology research because some grants come with a full package that will allow you to establish a whole laboratory, a center of excellence for actually a workshop. So then before we proceed further, let us actually clear some very common misconceptions that usually we have with regards to grants or academic research grants. These misconceptions are, I just highlighted some few. There are many of them, but these are the most common misconceptions. One, only professors or PhDs get grants. Yes, we always believe that to get grants, you must be a professor, or you must be a PhD holder, or something like that, or of higher ranking academic, which is not true. There are actually, yes, research grants that target developed or professionals that have already advanced, but there are many calls of research grants that are calling for early career researchers or mid-career professionals. So even when you are actually having just your first degree or having only maybe your master's degree, there are a lot of courses that are actually targeting a lot of people in that category. Then, secondly, you need connections to win grant. That if you not, don't have connections, you cannot be able to win grant, which is also untrue. Yes, connections in form of collaborations help. When you have a strong collaboration with maybe some teams or a stronger belonging maybe in a team that is very strong, it helps actually in helping you to get grants. But strong proposals actually are what are the key to getting actually grants. Strong proposals matter more at getting than actually connections. Then the process is too hard. Many of us believe that the process of assessing or getting a grant is too hard. Yes, grantsmanship is a skill. For you to be able to achieve or get a lot of grants, you have to learn that skill. Yeah, it gets easy with rigor. When you actually are rigor, you try a lot and do it over and over again. And then with mentorship, getting people that have excel in that area and have that idea, have the knowledge to train you and to guide you in that. And then finally with practice. Normally, at the first or second grant, you'll not be able to get to a grant. But when you do it over and over, you become more expert in that field, and then you'll be able to get these grants. So these are misconceptions that we can always overcome. And the purpose of this workshop today is actually to give us knowledge or guidelines of how we can be able to overcome and win research grants. So, grant application overview. So, let us understand first how grant application processes occur. What is the process? How does it work? That's the flow chart of a research application. First, you start by the idea generation. You have an idea of a research that you wanted to carry out. You have an idea of maybe you have identified a problem and you have an idea of a solution to that problem that you want to solve as a researcher. Then, when you do that, you identify a suitable core. That's a core that aligns with that very thematic area that you are interested to do research with. So once you identify a suitable core that is in line with your idea or in line with your research goals, etc., then you can start writing your proposal. Then that's the proposal writing stage. So once you write your proposal, then we have the institutional endorsement. Normally, proposal don't fly when you send them as an individual. They need something like an institutional backing because funders want to know that yes, you belong to an institution where you are capable of doing this research. You have like the cover, you have like the facilities to be able to perform or carry out or execute this research. So institutional endorsement, very, very important. Then once you have that, then submission. When you do submission, you submit according to the call, following the guidelines very strictly and meticulously. Then after the submission, there will be the review process. The funders will send your proposal for review. After review, there will be a feedback. And this feedback can be either positive or can be negative. Positive in the sense that it is accepted and you get funding. Negative that it is not accepted and it is actually rejected. So if you have a positive feedback, then you have award. That's award of the grant and then implementation, of course. Then once you have award, you start the research. That's the implementation phase. You do the research, you progress report, you do final report, and then you have monitoring and then final report as the end of the research grant cycle. So this is an overview of the general grant application process and how the process takes place. So, and we are going to look at it maybe stepwise. So, before that, let us understand some grant languages and terminologies. There are some terms that you see often in grant and it's supposed to actually they have like request for proposals. That's calls. That's when a funder needed to provide funding to a particular thematic area. You make a request for proposal. We call it RFPs. These are requests. These are calls for proposal submission. So, and that's what actually you work upon. You look at the guidelines, you look at the criteria, look at the requirement. If your research and every other thing fits in, then you write actually the proposal. Then you look at there's what we call also letter of intent, LOI. There are certain call for proposals that don't ask you outrightly to submit even a concept or outrightly submit maybe a full proposal. They first ask you to submit a letter of intent. A letter of intent will always maybe carry your details as your names, your institution of affiliation, as well as maybe possibly your qualifications, maybe discipline or area of expertise. So that letter of intent sometimes allow funders to understand that yes, you are eligible to even apply for this research, and then they give you the opportunity to apply. Then we have the PI, principal investigator, which we will all know. The person that is leading the research, which is the focal person for the research, is referred to as the principal investigator. He can have as many co-PIs, like co-researchers, you understand me, that we will be able to call. Then we have budget justification. We have things like deliverables. We have things like work plan. We have things like M&E, monitoring and evaluation. So these are languages and terminology we use in grant applications, which we need to be conversant with, and we need to actually justify them and be able to work along with them. So having said that, we move to look at types of funding agencies. What are the available funding agencies or what are their types? There are various types of funding agencies, okay? And there are so many grants available that are flying in the air, seeking for people to pick them up. So, example, we have governmental funding agencies. For us in Nigeria, we have the lead funding like state fund, as we all know, which provide a lot of funding for institutional-based research and also for the much known NRF, National Research Fund grant. The IBR is at the cap of about 5 million naira, while the NRF has a cap of about 50 million naira. We have other grant providers like PTDF, and we have like NIDA, National Institute of Technology Development Agency. We have NASENI too, which are also all governmental funders within the shores of Nigeria. They have so many others besides them. These are just examples. Then we have international funding agencies, which make calls also from time to time. And then we have things like that, which is a German funding agency. We have the TWAS, which is for actually global south, mostly countries. We have the NIH, which is the major funding agency for the United States with respect to health interventions. We have the EU Horizon Europe, which is a conglomerate of EU countries providing funding from Europe to mostly LMICs, low and medium income countries. Then we have philanthropic organizations or foundations that also provide funding. A common example is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust. These are very common philanthropic organizations. They always provide funding and they always provide calls. And then we have other funders that will just be trying to fulfill their corporate social responsibility, CSR programs like maybe our Shell and then Total Energies. All these provide fundings, and all these are examples of funding agencies that you can always leverage upon and get a research grant and research funding from. So some key Nigerian research funding bodies, as I've already highlighted here, include TED Fund, NRF and IBR, ITF grants, PTDF, R&D support, NIDA Research and Innovation Fund, and MBT support for polytechnic. Once you peruse through the website of these organizations, you'll be able to see if they have any call available at any point in time. And if you follow them up, you'll be able to see their funding announcement or call for proposals. And you can always apply for any that aligns with your area of expertise and your research ideas or scope. Then we have examples of key international funders towards research grants for Africa. I've tried to focus on Africa so that because we're in Africa, and one common thing with research funding is that it's highly competitive, and usually calls for research funding will focus on maybe global south or LMICs. These are the calls that we from Africa can be able to get funding from. LMICs means low medium income countries, low medium income countries. And global south countries means countries that are in the global south. Mostly that's the countries in the African continent, South America, and then part of Asia, actually, mostly Asia, South Asia, including China, but excluding Russia and other Southeast Asian countries. And these are regarded as global south countries, and there is a lot of funding announcements that are focusing on global south countries. But what we should understand that when we say LMICs and global south countries, these are still containing countries like China, countries like India, which makes competitions very rife. Because when you are applying for a funding and people are applying for the same funding from China, for the same funding from India, you'll be competing with people that are having 300, 500 already publications. You understand? They have more advanced ground for them to win some grants. I've seen funding announcements for LMICs that will say all LMICs countries excluding China and India, so that they leverage to give other countries opportunity. Or all global south countries excluding China and India and Pakistan. I've seen announcements that are done, because that does that, and that is just to help favor actually African, particularly scientists or researchers, as well as from the Caribbean, that's South America, because these are the educationally backward countries, and will find it very, very difficult to win research grants and be able to advance their research activities. So we have the TUAS, which is focusing mostly on Africa, and I think part of Asian countries like Pakistan and Iran and so on and so forth. Then we have the African Academy of Science, which are giving funding exclusively mostly for African scientists. We have UNESCO and UNICEF funding. They have exclusive funding for LMICs and Global South. We have UK Research Fund, OCRI. We have NIH, which is the USA Global Health Research Fund. All these funders have announcements that are exclusively for Africa, sometimes for Global South and sometimes for LMICs countries, as the case may be. When you read through the grant guidelines, you see those eligibility guidelines, which is very, very important. So, having said that, let us then look at the classification of grants. We can classify grants based on first size and value. Yeah, based on the size, the value of the fund they provide. So we have first micro grants, which are in our Nigerian content are grants that are within the 50,000 naira to 500,000 naira. These are micro grants, and in the entire context, there are grants that are less than $1 million or $1,000. I mean, beg your pardon. So these support small pilot studies, travel grants, community outreach, or student research. They are just grants that support student research, maybe travel grants, local innovation grants, campus research, small researches which we can always start for. But as a early career researcher, this is a very good point to start with, start seeking for grants with. From the micro grants, then you move to small grants. Small grants are grants of 500 to 5 million naira. That is like our IBR grant that we say we have in the platform. Those are small grants. But they are suitable for short-term research, training workshop, or capacity building, as we have in the IBR that platform used to provide. Example, they are the TWAS research grant for individual, small NGO project support, and also the Tetron IBR. I did not include it here, but it's also an example of a small grant. Then, thirdly, we have medium grants, which are grants in the range of 5 million to 50 million naira, which is about $10,000 to $100,000 in the international context. So they are aimed to fund more comprehensive research, equipment purchase, fieldwork, and pilot interventions. So the typical example of it is the NRF grant, the Tech Fund NRF Intervention Grant, the NIPTA Research Support, Welcome Trust Seed Grant. These are researches that are aimed to actually support researches that will really bring out some innovation, that will be able to solve some problems and will have practical applicability. So these are medium grants. Then we have large grants, which may be in the range of like 50 million to 500 million naira, or 100,000 to 1 million, $100, $100,000 to $1 million. And these are usually multi-institutional, multi-year research and for R&D and policy focused research. This type of research you see will involve a lot of consortia from various institutions or various organizations, and it is mostly a long-term research, maybe 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, because the idea is to develop results that would actually provide research and development, or is actually trying to provide a policy, you understand me, focused project, maybe development of something, maybe let's say if it is targeting, let's say maybe vaccine utilization and the results, whether the vaccine that has been administered to maybe young children have efficacy over a long period of time. Such you can see such grants being supported by UNICEF and so on and so forth. So examples are NIH RO1 grants, which is research from the National Institute of the United States, the EU Horizon Europe Research Course, which is always available, African Academy of Sciences, Deltas. These are large grants, and they are actually multi-layered, and they are for actually multiple organizations. So then we have what we call mega grants, which are 500 million naira and above, or $1 million and above. Typically awarded to consortia or institutions with proven track record. Usually, these are awarded to institutions that are or considered center of excellence. They are already center of excellence in a particular discipline or in a particular area of research or academia. So they are awarded this to actually support national or global scale programs, maybe health, education, technology, or climate change. Examples is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Grant Challenges, Global Fund programs. These are mega grants that are awarded to actually big consortia institutions that have already proven records in their academic pursuit. So this is an overview of the general classification of research based on their size and value. And it is usually ideal for a researcher to begin from the smallest and then be transformed up to the biggest. But it's still important for us to look at these types of grants based on purpose or thematic area, that's thematic focus. Yes, not based on the value of the research, which actually will always mostly align. So in this context, we have about, I try to classify research into about 9 different maybe categories or types. We have travel grants, which is a very excellent grant to start with as an earlier career researcher. It supports researchers to attend conferences, workshops, or training. Usually, we know that we have this conference attendance intervention that people need to provide to our academicians or researchers to travel to conferences, both local and international. So this is a typical travel grant. But besides that, there are so many travel grants available for conferences. In fact, many international conference organizers, when they organize conference, they open up travel grants because they wanted participants, especially early career researchers, who they knew are not yet established and they don't have money or fund to attend conferences. You understand me? To be able to attend this conference. So this is a very, very important research grant type to start with as an earlier career researcher, because in most instances it's very simple. All is required is that you have a good research paper and maybe a good abstract to present at the conference, and then you fill the eligibility criteria, which normally will have people of younger age, maybe they will say 18 to 30 years, or at most 35 years, and people that have not actually advanced in their careers, maybe at the very lower ranking of their careers, and maybe people from LMICs, low and medium income countries. During my formative years, I've used this opportunity to travel a lot, so many countries, and attend so many conferences. I won quite a number of travel grants to be able to travel and present my researches in various forums, various conferences. So usually the amounts are small, just amount that will be enough maybe to provide a flight ticket and possibly some feeding and maybe registration for the conference and maybe accommodation. At times it will even be only for the travels and accommodation and registration. They will say you have to arrange for your upkeep and so on and so forth. But they are good research grants and they are excellent, especially earlier career researchers. So then we have two seed or starter or beginner grants. These are for early career researchers or first time applicants to start a research. People that have maybe attended travel grants, have seen how we can do excellent research, so they then go for seed or starter or beginner grant. So it helps in collecting preliminary data or pilot testing. Just a small starting just a very small research. An example are welcome trusted award, technical institution-based research IBR grants, and so on and so forth. These are typical example of seed or startup beginners research. So IBR that we always enjoy is a seed or startup beginners research. Then we have three postdoctoral or individual research fellowships. We have certain research grants that are awarded to mostly PhD holders to conduct independent research. People that have graduated from PhDs early as soon as they graduate, they get postdoctoral appointments in the research fellowship. And that includes mentoring, training, and research funding. So example is the Mary Skoldesa Cody Fellowship, African Postdoctoral Training Initiative, and so on and so forth. Then we have four institutional or group grants. These are targeting research teams or institutions rather than individuals. It targets uh, teams or institutions rather than individuals. Support multidisciplinary or multi-layer projects. Example is the NRF Interdisciplinary Grant, NIHU series for operative agreements. So these are institutions and they are in the category of, let's say, the micro grants, something like that. So then research says or professorial chairs, high value grants for senior scholars to lead focused research programs, including support for personnel, equipment, and dissemination. So people that have already maybe advanced and are professionals in their field normally are given this type of grants. We call them professorial chairs. You will see them in universities and institutions for the chair of this, chair of that. So Tetron Research Chair Endowment, UNESCO chair programs are all examples of such a grant. Then we have six Center of Excellence grants. These are awarded to the institution. It's awarded to the institute to establish a research hub or innovation center. That establish a very formidable research hub or innovation center in particular discipline. It promotes leadership in the thematic area, e.g., renewable energy or public health, or maybe electrical engineering, and so on and so forth. So, example is the African Center of Excellence (ACE), which are available in quite a number of universities, and World Bank funded programs. These are Center of Excellence. We have one in the Ahmadu Bello University area. So then seven, training and capacity building grants. So these type of grants fund workshops, training schools for institutional development. For example, this workshop that we organize, we are holding, you can apply for a funding for it and get a grant that the grant will support this training or support this workshop or support a particular institutional development that we are actually developing people in particular. So it is focused on knowledge transfer.
It's promising.
Capacity building grants and leader training initiatives. These are examples of training and capacity building grants. So maybe Sister can explore this in the next training session to look for the Erasmus grant and be able to support this kind of training. Then we have pilot demonstration grants, support real world tested or small scale implement of innovations. That's often precedes scale of funding. Example, innovative UK feasibility studies, you said development innovation ventures stage one. These are example of they actually support researchers that have already developed the prototype to develop the pilot that can actually be sent out for testing maybe on field or elsewhere. Then we have challenge or prize-based grants. These are challenges or prize-based, they are like competitive grants. The competitive award for solving a specific problem or innovation challenge. Maybe when we have some challenges, maybe like water desalination in Asia, I've seen some grants that are challenging researchers to bring innovative ideas that can solve water we are desalinate water in a very smaller, using innovative way, utilizing lesser energy. So we regionals receive funding after demonstrating proof of concept. When they demonstrate that they have proven that the concept they have will work, then they will be provided funding to be able to actualize that concept. So examples are Grand Challenges Africa, X Prize, Coach Prize. All these are examples of our challenge or prize-based grant. So these are various grant funding with respect to their purpose or their thematic focus areas. So having said that, now I know the next question people will be asking is that how could we get this? How could we discover these grant opportunities? How can we apply or get when these courses are available? So generally, there are about four ways that are identified that you can be able to discover and get research funding opportunities. First is the use of online platforms. There are quite a number of online platforms that if you just sign up to them and you register with them and become a member, from time to time you can log on and they can even send you emails and alerts of research openings, and you can even plot in your thematic areas or your area of expertise. And research that aligns to area, they will always be sending you emails on that. Example is the DVX Research Connect, Grant Forward, and Trialect. These are just examples. There are so many of them available on that platform that you can sign up and register for. Then two, sign up for Fonda's newsletters and receive calls and updates. If, for example, you have particular funders that you are following, let's say Welcome Trust, or maybe in Horizon Europe, or NIH or something like that. So you sign up for their newsletters. Once you sign up for their newsletters, whenever they release a call, you automatically receive the call as a newsletter, and you get updates of what is the status of research with all the guidelines and everything. So that is like a thematic area based that if in your discipline you know funders that provide funding, you just go ahead and sign up for their funders newsletter. Then three, you can join academic emailing list and research WhatsApp or Telegram groups. There are quite a number of academic emailing lists, maybe that bringing academia together, like I know of AfriZone, I know of Afri Research Enclave, and so on and so forth. They are all available. You can belong to their emailing list. I know of Para. We have also for agri research openings. So once you are on the emailing list, you receive these emails. And if you are in the WhatsApp group too, you receive this update or the Telegram group. And it's something you can always get. And I don't think there is any time that I used to pass 2 days without getting maybe a call or a grant opening or an announcement or a newsletter based on the platforms I belong. Every 2 days, I get one or two, aligning or not aligning to my area of discipline. Sometimes I share with others that I feel that they can be able to participate. Then, fourthly, if at least you've not done all these other three, or you find all these other three difficult, you can just always perform a Google search. Simple internet search will give you proposals that are already ongoing or are available. For example, you can use maybe keyword like call for proposals plus agriculture plus Africa plus 2025. For example, if your area of expertise is Africa, or your research interest or your research idea is in agriculture and it's solving a problem in Africa and it's in 2020, so you just like call for proposal plus agriculture plus Africa plus 2025 and then send it for Google search. It will list out for you most of the grant call for proposal that are ongoing in 2025 that are focusing on agriculture and are focusing on Africa. And you can from there you can be able to sign up to them and be able to access their call for proposals and be able to apply. So then having seen the maybe the call for proposals, or you found out the way to see call for proposal and you've downloaded the guidelines, what next? Very, very important. And this is where most grant applicants get it wrong. You must ensure that your grant or your research application align fully with funders' priorities. Because funders will always tell you, this is our priority area. This is what we want. These are our guidelines. Those guidelines must be followed rigorously and religiously. So you have to first read the funder call. You have to read it complete. Sometimes it is disgusting because it could be multiple of pages of PDF, 5 pages, 6 pages of PDF. of a document and maybe tiny writings. There's nothing you can do. You must read this founder's course and the strategy documents. Sometimes you have the founder's call and then you have attached documents attached to it that is setting the eligibility, the guideline, and so on and so forth. These are strategy documents which you must read carefully and thoroughly. Then identify the keyword and the themes. Now, what is the theme? What is the priority of this actually founder? What is his interest? Is he in the area of under fight nutrition? Is he interested in solving problems that have to do water and sanitation in Africa? Is he concerned about promoting gender equality or inequality, and so on and so forth? So then, category, that's what category it belongs. Is it in the sciences? Is it in the humanities? If it is in the sciences, it is engineering based, it is no trying to promote health or public health, and so on and so forth. And then not the deadline. Usually, when I receive calls for funding, because I cannot instantly read the funder's strategy document completely, I just call. The first thing I look at is to look at the category. Then the next thing I look at is to look at the eligibility. Am I eligible? Who are the eligible? The age and the gender and so on and so on. And then next, I look at the deadline. Is the deadline approaching? Has it elapsed? Or do I have time? So I just look at these three things quickly. And if I see that it's something that, yes, I can be able to give it a try, then I start working on it. So you have to then identify eligibility. Very, very important, because all calls will give you some eligibility criteria, which might range from age. They will say maybe we just need the applicants to be from 18 to 25 years or to 35 years. Applicants can be not more than 45 years. Applicants can be in the range of 45 to 60 years. They give sometimes some kind of thing. Some even calls will even prioritize gender. They will say that this call is exclusive for female genders. Or maybe female genders are encouraged to apply. So if you see a call saying female are encouraged to apply, it's telling you that even if as the PI you are a male, you should try and include a female in your team because that's under priority. So then the rank also. Are you an earlier career researcher? Are you a professional in mid-career, or are you already an advanced or maybe a well-established researcher? Calls will mostly specify what they want. It is for early career research, it's for mid-career research, or it is for established researchers. And also demography, which I also explained, maybe LMIC countries, developing countries, global south. You understand me? Or it is just global and worldwide. It's difficult for you to apply for a grant when you are in Africa, and if it's a global funding for you, because you have so many competitors. So leveraging on LMIC's focus grant, developing countries grants, global south grant helps a lot to boost your chances of winning that funding. So example, a funder focused on climate resilience will prepare proposals on drought-resistant crops rather than luxury food items. That's if a funder for the focus is on climate resilience, then your proposal, if you are proposing something on food items, should be on climate drought-resistant crops rather than luxury food items. If you put anything, you will not actually give because it's not aligning with its own priority. So, so the first very, very important is to align the research with funders' priorities. So then, finally, once you are able to align your research with the funders' priorities, that means it has fit in. Your research is in line. You are eligible to apply for this research. Everything is in line with the funder priorities. Then you look at the institutional readiness and support, because that's also equally very, very important. Even when you satisfy all the eligibility requirements, the requirement of the institution is also important. For example, you have a research office that can help handle and guide application process, because there are certain research applications or grant applications that you cannot submit as an individual. It must be submitted by the institution on your behalf. So, and for that sort of, you need a research office that can be able to handle and guide the application process on your behalf. Yes, not actually you applying as an individual. I remember there's a time we applied for one CIFA grant, though we did not want it, but it's an institutional guided research. We have to apply. It is based on engineering, but we have to apply it from the academic planning division because the institution must apply on behalf of engineering. So we have then institutional research team capability to handle and deliver the research. Very, very important. First is that the team you were able to form do they have the capability to handle and deliver that research proposal? And that is not to say that you know them, that I know this person is engineer, this is doctor, this doctor, see this, they have the no. What do you mean by capability? Then? If the funders or your reviewers try to Google them or try to check their publication or try to check their profile, do their profiles align with the research proposal you are submitting? If their profiles do not align, for example, if I'm submitting a research proposal and I'm being the PI, and that research is actually centered, let's say, on let's say energy engineering, while I'm a biochemist that is mostly doing cancer research, it does not align. You understand me? So no matter the achievement I've recorded in my field of this, the reviewers will find it difficult to accept that I will be able to deliver this kind of maybe research. So that is very, very important. I remember one of the NRF funding we won in the institution. I wrote it. But when I finished writing the funding, because it's more of civil engineering, I have to invite people from the civil engineering to lead the research team because I cannot lead it because I don't have that needed expertise to lead that kind of research team. So also, not only the researcher, the institutional capability, especially for international grants. International grants sometimes look at the institution. That do the institution have the capacity or the ability to be able to deliver this kind of research? Have they have a track record of publications in this area of research and so on and so forth? I could recall there's a time that we are applying for research to our prostate cancer transatlantic consortium, which is a joint research with U.S. Institutions and some institutions in West Africa, including ABU Zaria, University of Ibadan, and University in Ghana, then with University in Florida and Tennessee. So we are trying to investigate the, the differences of prostate cancer prevalence in Black Africans that are in US and then Black Africans that are in Nigeria, because it is believed that the Black Africans, most of them that are in US, are actually shipped by slave trade to the United States. So we are trying to look at the epigenetics, whether their location in a different environment influence their ability to develop the disease, and so on and so forth. And APU Zaria is leading the research consortia of Northern Nigeria in that area. But when we file and we do the baseline search, APU Zaria do not have at then the capability to lead a research in prostate cancer because they have good outcome in breast cancer, but not in prostate cancer. And because of that, we have to invite collaborators from the University of Maiduguri to put in, because as a then University of Maiduguri have a better outcome in prostate cancer research than ABU Zaria. And that's how we are able to get that grant. So that is also important. Not only the research team, but the institution. Is the institution capable of hosting? Do they have the facility? Do you have the the laboratories, the workshop? Do they have the able hands that will be able to perform this research? Then we have also the next thing which is important, peer review of proposals. We normally make this well. Whenever we write proposal, we just send them out. In the first grantmanship that I attended, maybe training, something like this that I'm delivering, I think I won a travel grant, maybe I think it's in 2011 to travel to Morocco to attend a grantmanship workshop like this. One of the key things I came back from our facility is that never send out a grant that's not read and peer reviewed by someone. That do not, once you write a grant, never you send out a grant until somebody, either your friends, your colleagues, or your senior colleague, or whoever, have read through and peer reviewed it. Because there are things that you may not see, but somebody will be able to see, and will be able to provide you with a critique, advice, and observation that will be able to improve the grant. So peer review of proposal is very, very important. Then budget approval and oversight. Whether this budget that we are trying to propose is okay and has gone through oversight, is it perfect? What we mean by oversight that you don't just assume if you said I'm trying to buy something, have you checked the market price? Is it that price? You don't assume because when you do assumption, you may be even proposing a price that is lesser or a price that is higher, which can affect your success of the grant. Then support for ethics clearance and reporting. You must have this support, either from institution or either for organization that provide this ethical clearance, because some research, especially ones that involves maybe humans or sometimes even animals or data collection, requires ethical clearance for you to be able to, and you must demonstrate your conduct that you have this clearance before they can be able to provide you funding. Because otherwise, they cannot provide you funding when you don't have actually clearance to be able to perform that research. So, so that is that for the first part of our presentation. So the second part of the presentation will kickstart. But before the second part, we want to just have a small interlude or a poll that we wanted to ask all participants whether they were able to they have ever won a research grant. So I've not actually developed the poll, but I'm trying to see if I can put the poll so that people can be able to uh, poll and in the interlude session. So let me see if we can do the poll. Hello.
We are with you, sir.
We are with you, sir.
Yeah,
We are with you.
So yeah, see if we can set up a poll so that we can
we are with
just.
you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, the poll is not. I cannot see the poll up. So I think I couldn't set up the poll. So maybe what we'll do, please, can people type just answer to the poll on the chat box? Have you ever won a research grant? Just write yes or no. I just want us to have an idea of maybe how many of us have won a grant and how many haven't. Can we do that, please? On the chat box. We'll give 3 or 4 minutes for that. And let's see responses.
It's requesting for pin. What is the pin?
Oh, the chat box?
Yes.
No, on the chat box, I think everybody can write something on the chat box. You write yes or no, just on the chat box.
Okay, on the chat box. Okay, the chat box. Okay.
Yes. That if you won a research grant, you write yes. If you have not won a research, no.
Okay.
So it's okay. I think participants are finding it difficult to respond to the poll. So let's go to the second part of the presentation, having so that we save time. Yes. So and remember, can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir. We can see it,
Yes,
sir.
sir. We can see, sir.
Yes,
So we move on to the second. Actually, I wanted to do the poll to just understand our maybe demographic of how many of us have won, maybe 50%, 20%, 30%, something like that. But it's fine. So let's move to the second part of the proposal of the presentation. I mean, developing a competitive research proposal for grants. Because what we first did is an overview of grantsmanship and how maybe the types of grants and what have you and the steps. So, but why do we not win grant proposal? I said grants are available. Inability to draft a convincing and competitive proposal denies us funding. So that's what I have as a tech. Grants are available. So many of them. If you after this workshop, if you use the avenues I told you, check on uh, 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 grants in all disciplines, including humanities. Because I have seen people that think that grants are only available in the sciences. So many grants are available in humanities areas, especially in economics and public administration and business development and so on and so forth. So grants are available, but few people used to win grants. And that is because of inability to draft a convincing and competitive proposal. So what we wanted to do in this second aspect is understand how can we be able to craft or draft a convincing and a winning proposal. Because a convincing and competitive proposal should be able to win. So it's not easy to win a grant because it is highly competitive. And I would say it categorically here for us to know that. And this is a global statistics that globally most funders, when they make a call and there are applicants, only 10% of those applicants used to get funding. 90% of grant applications get rejected. And that is true for almost all grants, including the NRF grant. In my NRF don't used to get it 10%. In the year that I knew we had some NRF grant in 2021, there are 6,000 applicants that submitted concept notes, and these 6,000 were trimmed down to 800 submit full proposals. Those 800 were trimmed down to 200, I think, and 20 that were actually funded, that we got funded. 220 of 6,000 is not even up to 5% of that number. So, and that's the normal. So, for a proposal to be able to be funded, it must stand out, it must be excellent, it must be competitive, and it must convince the reviewers and the funders. So, and how do we get that research? So, I started with the question: what makes a proposal competitive? What makes a proposal competitive? First, clearly defined problem and solution. That is what makes a proposal stand out first. That the proposal, the problem of the proposal is very clear. The solution is very, very clear. A problem is clear if everyone understands that. Immediately you state it, everyone knows, yes, this is a problem. Because people have problems, societies have problems, but nobody knows the solution to the problem. And that's why you are a researcher. You, as a researcher, should know the solution to a problem. Usually, when you interview people about problem, they will tell you their problem. But you ask them, how can I solve the problem? They don't know how they will solve the problem. There is a typical, maybe, adage that is running in the competitive world of academia that when the first, what's this person name that developed the, the, the internal combustion engine, this English person, I've forgotten the scientist's name, the developed internal combustion engine. When he first took the interview of people that are using horses, as at then the most prime means of transportation is horses. What is your problem? They say they want a better means of transportation. He asked them what should be the solution. They said they want iron horses. Yeah, and it's not possible to have an iron horse or a faster horse. They say a faster horse, a faster or an iron horse. And that's what led him to develop the internal combustion, which is the car, which is actually an iron car, which is faster than a horse. So the problem must be clearly defined and the solution must also be clearly defined. But in addition to that, it must align with the funder's goals and objectives. No matter how good a proposal is in terms of problem and solution, if it is not aligning with funders' perspective or funders' requirement, it will not fly, it will not succeed. Then, having said that, sound methodology and feasible plan, that the methodology that you are adopting is sound, is acceptable. When the reviewers check it, yes, this is the real methodology that can be able to solve or provide a solution to this research. And then a feasible plan, that the plan you have identified or itemized that you are going to roll out this methodology or you are going to roll out this research is something that's feasible and is something that is achievable. Then finally, credible team and institutional support. Your team must be credible. Each and every person should be on that team, not because he's your friend or because he's your mentee only, or because he's somebody you wanted to support, or because he's a professor or he's a doctor or he's whatever. No, he must have something that he can contribute to that. And when they look at his profile aligns with the research, and he will be able to actually be able to submit. So, example, I'm giving a typical example. This is one of the researches we have that won the NRF research. A proposal on plastic waste. I put plastic waste in red because that is the problem. Everybody knows that plastic waste is a problem because once you look around you, you see so many plastic waste littering our streets, littering our roads, littering everywhere, which you cannot do anything. So that's a problem, everybody will understand. Then recycling into interlocking, that's the solution. That is the solution. You can see from the title have captured the problem and have captured the solution. Then in urban Nigeria, aligned with both environmental, economics, and public health priorities, which is the Ponder's goal. The NRF goal, particularly of TETFON, is concerned about solving problems that are of national concern. And the issue of environmental, economic, and public health priority is a challenging area of national concern. So you can see how this proposal, you understand me, met all these three criteria I put. There is a problem and the solution. It aligns with the funders' goals. And then, of course, when you look at the in-depth of it has a sound metabolic feasibility plan and the credible thing that would be. So this is a proposal that won an NRF grant of, I think, 15 million naira or so, and was well executed. So then, going next, so when we are submitting proposals, we normally have two kinds of submission, which we may be aware. So I wanted to identify the difference because many people have asked me, what is the difference between a concept note and a full proposal? And the gold standard, that is the international standard of most calls, is that most calls will not actually submit uh, full proposals. They will actually submit concept notes. As I told you earlier, some even funders will actually submit LOI, letter of intent. Then after letter of intent, they will actually submit concept notes. Then after concept note, they will actually submit full proposal. So what are concept notes? What are full proposals? Concept notes are actually small proposals that you write that pitch the idea, of what you wanted to do. They are normally very tiny. You can see their purpose is initial idea pitch, help funders screen applications. So it helps so that funders don't need to waste time. From just that small pitch, they can be able to identify. And they are short, normally 2 to 5 pages, at most 1,500 to 2,000 words as per guideline. They don't exceed that mostly. Some are even 1,000 words. So then when you often at the first stage of a second step application process. So then content, problem, objectives, brief methodology, and expected impact. That's what concept normally used to ask for. What is the problem? What are the objectives? What is the brief methodology and what is the expected outcomes or impact? Then time to prepare. Normally, within 1 week, even in 1 day, you can write a concept note. So few days, 2 days, 3 days, at most 1 week, you've written a concept note if you have the research ideas in you, and then review depth, quick review for alignment with feasibility. So you submit concept note, they quickly review it, and they give you the outcome of the concept note. Example, TETFON used to ask for concept note, DAD used to ask for concept note, TWATS used to ask for concept note. And I so much love the idea of concept note because it actually helps you not to strain your whole energy in writing a full proposal that will get rejected. So you just spend 1 or 2 days writing a note and then you submit. So even if it is rejected, you don't feel that it doesn't weigh you down so much. You have not put so much energy and so much time and so much resources in drafting. So usually, after a concept note, if the concept note is accepted, they will actually submit a full proposal. And what are the elements of a full proposal? So purpose, detailed plan for funding consideration. Full proposal having detail, everything. And the length is normally long, normally 10 to 30 pages, depending on the guideline. The guideline will tell you that the proposal should not exceed so pages. Usually there are 15, 20 pages at most instances. Then when used, after concept note is accepted or for direct grant application. So usually when concept note is accepted, they will ask you to submit full proposal. But there are some funders that will ask you to submit full proposals for direct application. They will not ask for concept note. I've seen such a kind of grant that will ask you to only apply directly. Then content, it includes detailed methodology, a detailed literature review, a detailed budget, M&E plan, sustainability, in addition to the problem, objectives, and expected impact. So everything, the full note or the full proposal is carrying everything. And in addition to problem overview, background, you also will have a detailed methodology, a detailed monitoring and evaluation plan, and sustainability plan. So time to prepare is time consuming, several weeks, sometimes months. Writing grants can take time. Then review depth, in-depth technical and budget evaluation. So when you give them for review, concept full notice to go to in-depth technical review by reviewers and budget evaluation. They evaluate your budget and see that yes, what you are asking for, you understand, aligns with what is available maybe in the market or whatever. So example is the TED Fund NRF full proposal submission. Usually TED Fund will ask you for concept note for NRF. After submitting the concept note, which is successful, they will ask you for the full proposal. This year, I learned from TED Fund, they received 5,800, I think, and 30 concept notes in the current last year's call that they did, I think in September or thereabout. And out of that 5,300 now, they've requested, I think, about 900 and something to write a full proposal, which they submitted a full proposal. Out of those 900 submitted the full proposal, I think 300 plus were invited for proposal defense. You can see how they trimmed the number. You understand me? Coming back to the same that 5% or 4 or 3% that will actually would be subsequently funded at the end of the day. So having known that now, so let us look at what is the component of a strong proposal. What are the things that we should look at when writing a strong proposal, a complete full note? So the first one is title and abstract, or executive summary. Sometimes we call it abstract, or in proposal, sometimes we mostly call them executive summary as per the funders' requirement. Then we have the introduction and problem statement. Introduction, that's background and problem statement. Then we have the objectives and hypotheses. Then we have the literature review section. We have the methodology section. We have the work plan and timeline, and then the budget and justification. We have the results expected and the impact. Then we have the M&E plan, that monitor and evaluation plan. Then we have the sustainability, scalability, and dissemination plan. These are the 10 required headings in most full proposals. That's a component of it. And if your proposal is not carrying any of these components, then it means it's not a very strong proposal. So a proposal is strong that will be competitive to carry this full heading. So let's briefly look at these them maybe one by one and see what they mean. So first, crafting a good title and an abstract or an executive summary. Title. Titles should be clear, should be short, reflect core ideas. So sometimes we have this concept as academicians that sometimes when we make our titles very big or are carrying a lot of terminologies, or maybe carrying it makes it more value. No, titles are better when they are clear. Everybody can read and understand them. They are better when the shorter the better. Normally, titles should not exceed 20 words, at most 23 words, but better 15 words or less. Yes, that's how titles are supposed to be. Lesser than 15 words, at most if they go more 20 words, at most they should not exceed 23 words. If your title is more than 23 words, it's difficult for somebody to reflect on what it is. So I give you an example of this. Improving soil fertility using biochar in Kaduna State. Very simple. Everybody can read this title and understand what it means. Improving soil fertility using biochar in Kaduna State. Very simple. So then abstract and executive summary. We all know this is supposed to be few words, mostly 200 to 300 words. So middle Media range is 250 words. Most abstract words are 250 words. 200 to 300 words. Summarizing problem, methods, results or outcomes, and the impact. So your abstract or executive summary must carry the problem, must set the summary of the methods to be developed, must show the results, expected results or outcomes, and must show the impact that this result will have, you understand me, on on the problem. So this will make your executive summary very excellent and will be one of them because this is the first thing that your reviewers will actually read and is what will lead them to reviewing your submission. This is an example of a sample with an executive summary. I just cut it out from one of the. This research we submitted to AF for funding, and it is hopefully to get funding. We just go for the defense of it last month, I think. So, formulation of malnourished internally displaced are resettled under 5 children in northwest Nigeria. You can see it. So, but it captures all what we needed to capture in the topic. And this is the executive summary. You can see the first paragraph is like a background. Malnutrition in all its forms remain a global challenge affecting millions of children under 5 years old. The problem. It encompasses undernutrition, etc., etc., etc. As of 2020, an estimated 1.9 million children under 5 were overweight globally. Sub-Saharan Africa bears a
Guys, what's happening? Hope I'm not disconnected. I suddenly heard quiet.
We all here.
They should complain now.
There's no need for that complaint. He's having a technical issue. You know how Nigerian network is. So he's trying to rectify it. As soon as he has done that, he now okay, it's muted. Okay, let me call him. Ina jin ma doctor mai ɗinka ne ya yi mutin. Okay, yanzu ka dawo sai mai ɗinka sai. Okay, okay.
yes, I will repeat, please.
The class.
Sorry, I was off. I think my network.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back.
And I was opted out of the meeting.
So you can go on, doctor.
Okay, so yes, I'm trying to. So are you with me?
Yep, we are with you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, we are with you.
So coming back, so network actually opted out. So this of maybe a sample title with an executive summary. The summary is detailed and it shows the problem, it shows the methodology, every impact will, the expected result, and then the impact of the research. So then writing an introduction. So to write an introduction, we have to describe the problem clearly. You understand? Describe the problem clearly. That's in the introduction. We should be able to describe the problem clearly. It should be comprehensible and clearly understandable by everyone. We normally used to have this issue that somebody will be trying to tell you a problem of research and he will tell you that no, because you are not an expert in this field. No, a problem should be able to be understood by almost everybody. Yes, because it's a problem. So if you find it difficult to make people understand your problem, then it is not clear and it's not well crafted. You have to do a lot of work to make sure that your problem, once you set it, just the way I gave you the example of plastic pollution, immediately you set it, everybody knows the problem. Or if I say water pollution, everybody knows water, or water unavailability, or lack of electricity, or lack of energy. Everybody knows these are problems that you don't need to go further and further to explain. So then explain why it matters locally, and then you go on to explain globally why that problem matters locally, and then why it is also mattering globally, especially when you are applying for grants that have global focus. Then provide brief background and reliable statistics. So don't just say that we have a problem of malnutrition or water scarcity and just stop. No, you have to bring facts. You can see in the previous example how we gave statistics from the global statistics down to Nigerian statistics, down to the northwest, where the focal area of the research takes place. That is very, very important. You must support your facts with statistics. Very, very necessary and very, very important. So, example, waterborne disease affects 60% of households in rural area Nigeria. This is a very typical example of a problem. We know that waterborne disease is a problem, and I bring out the statistics: 60% of households in rural area. Everybody will feel, yes, this is an alarming problem. Or prostate cancer is globally the leading male cancer and is responsible for 35% of mobility in US black men. I copied this one outrightly from one of the grant proposals we submitted to NIH, which got funding for the prostate cancer transatlantic consortium. Because anything that will lead to 35% mobility of male is something that is serious and is something of concern. So that's how you craft a good introduction. An introduction should have a good background and should be supported by good statistics and reliable statistics with references. Then this example maybe of an introduction with clear problem statement for a this is one of the of the plastic waste that won the NRF grant. You can see the title is the Trial of Waste Plastic of what payment interlock, an innovative environmental approach for plastic waste bag nuisance in Nigeria. And you can see the background. Plastic waste are global environmental problem. They have been in several ecological damage as a result of their non-degradability and often toxicity to livestock and marine life. Schemes for checkmating their menace include reduced usage, recycling, landfilling, and incineration. Recycling has been adjusted among the best practice for curbing waste, etc., etc. So you see, we are bringing out the background. Then here we have the problem setting. Waste management in Nigerian cities has been a major challenge and has consistently been on the increase due to drastic increase in population, urbanization, and socio-economic development. Everybody knows this, that waste management is a problem in our cities. Plastic constitutes about half of the total municipal waste generated in Nigeria. You see the statistics, 70%. This total are waste bags, majority of which are underutilized in recycling due to their diversity mix and constituents. So something like that. So you bring the student of the problem and you support him with a reliable statistics and eye-catching statistics that everybody would want to know. Yes, this is a problem, and we'll be able to go further. So then this is a sample background with an objective of the RUTF research on the under nutrition. You see, this is the background of that. Malnutrition is a significant factor in 45% of all deaths among children under 5. You see statistics linked to undernutrition as well as overweight, obesity, and diet-related non-communicable diseases. In Nigeria, about 2 million children suffer from severe acute malnutrition, with 46.6% of the children in the Northwest facing significant malnutrition. You see how we craft it. 2 million. Out of these 2 million, 46.6% are from Northwest. And that's why we should be funded to do this research. Because we are trying to solve the problem of almost 1 million children that will suffer from acute malnutrition. However, 20% of affected children in this region receive conventional treatment. You can see. So what about the other 26%? Particularly among internally displaced and restricted under 5 children. So on and so forth. When you read through it, you see how we are able to craft the background, struck in the problem. But can you hear me? The same my internet is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir. So then we have the objectives too. You can see the objectives of the research. They are being said we have about 7 objectives for that research. Access the nutritional status and needs of IDPs and restricted under 5 children. Develop issues. Evaluate the nutritional content and safety of the UETF in comparison with existing therapeutic foods. Conduct a sensory and acceptability test for the UETF. Implement a pilot trial to evaluate the acceptance of the UETF among the target population. Assess the impact of the local EUTF on malnutrition rates among the target group, then promote sustainability and community engagement. These are the objectives. And that is very, very important, bringing out the project, and that takes us to defining objectives. We all know about this thing, SMART objectives. Your objectives must be SMART. And what do SMART means? Specific. That's what exactly would do. You should not write objectives that somebody will not understand what you are trying. You should be specific objectives. Then it should be measurable. You should be able to measure the objectives. Then it should be achievable. Don't put objectives that are just white elephant objectives that nobody can be able to achieve them. They are too maybe ambitious or maybe too cozy for anybody to be able to achieve them. Then they should be relevant. Does it match with your research ideas and with the funders' goals? Because if it doesn't match with the funders' goals, it's not relevant. Then time bound. When will you complete each part? Is that objective? When will you complete it? When will you finish it? It should not be an unending object that you continue without an end. That is not actually acceptable. Then we have the literature review tips. When you are crafting the literature review, you should show knowledge and expertise of the field. Your literature review should show that you really knew of all publications, of all research that were taking place in that field. If your team have relevant publications in that area, cite them also. Cite them, quote them to show that you knew a lot about this area and even have work and publication in that area. Either you or your research team members or the whole team members. Then identify and clearly showcase the researcher in the literature review, because that's the essence of literature review. You show what is known, what has been done, and what is yet undone. That is the researcher. So and that's where you hammer, and that's where you actually ace your hammer. Then maintain an excellent workflow. That's your objective. Your literature review should have an excellent flow. It should flow accordingly. The arrangement of how you write ideas, the paragraphing, and so on and so forth must be excellent and must be excellently cited. Then cite 5 to 10 at least relevant work from the last 5 years. Don't make all your citations outdated or are old. They must be relevant, at least if not old, but at least 5 to 10 of them must be relevant from last 5. That's what shows recency. Now, what you are trying to do is you have the knowledge of what is recent in the field. Then avoid outdated or unrelated work. Sometimes people will fill their proposal with things that are not related, works or citations that are irrelevant to the work that they are actually doing. Avoid that one. Then methodology essentials. When you are writing the methodology, this I think previous presentation are taking care of research design. Bring out the research design. Is it qualitative? Is it quantitative? Is it a mixed method? Tell your reviewers what are the research design that you are going to deploy or what research design you wanted to use. Yeah. Then also the sampling strategy and the sample size. The sampling strategy and the sample size, you have to also be able to show this is the sampling strategy, this is the population, this is the sample size. Then equipment, apparatus, and specific agent or tools that we are going to use. Mention them. State their mode. What is the specification? What type? Who are the manufacturers? Who are the suppliers? Where will you get them from? Tools and techniques for data collection and analysis. That's the tools you needed to use for data collection and analysis. Tell them out. Then ethical consideration, like confidentiality, consent. You have to all explain this in your methodology essentials. So creating a work plan, you have to show work plan and timeline. Use normally a Gantt chart is the best way to show the facts. When are you going to perform this task? Show the break the project into phases. That's the preparatory phase, the field work, the analysis, the reporting, the dissemination, and align it with timing. This will take 1 month, this will take 2 months, this will take 2 weeks, this will take 3 weeks. And you have to follow this timeline religiously because your funders will be requesting you to submit progress report. And in all your progress report, they will be telling you back to the timeline or your Gantt that you are able to, you have earlier submitted. So then building a budget and justification. And this is a very, very important area that people normally miss it out in grant writing. Most people will write a very good and excellent proposal, but at the funding stage, at the budget stage, they will miss it all because the budget is not justified or the budget is not in line with what we have proposed to do. Because sometimes we lose focus. We are focused more on the funding than on the content. So categories of acceptable categories in budget will include personnel, equipment, transport, software, logistics, travels, dissemination, publications, etc. These are acceptable categories. Then we have breakdown of budgetary expenses. Don't lump up budgetary expenses and say, if you say transport 200,000, explain for what? We say field business maybe for 3 local government for 6 weeks. You have to break it down. If possible, align back for each week with this amount of. That is how we break down budget. Don't put budget lumped up. They must be broken down to their lowest so that your reviewers will understand how you arrive at that large sum. Then avoid padding, avoid overcosting, and avoid inclusion of vague items that are irrelevant to the research. You understand me? We have seen proposals when people will write, they will put that they need a laptop, or they need maybe a phone, or maybe they need a router for data and so on and so forth. When it's not, it's just a vague item. It's not actually a real requirement for that research. So I just cut out to give an example of how you break down some of the budget. This example budget breakdown of the result of plastic interlock that I gave an example of. You can see how we break down the personnel and technical assistant cost. This is the principal researcher. This is the co-researcher. This is the technical assistant. This is the research assistant. And then you see the equipment. Fabrication of 100 number metallic molds, 5,000 per piece per 100. That makes 500,000 naira. Purchase amount of 2 number mixer machines. That's 2 million naira. Compression or compile of 1 number. So you have to break down everything so that everybody will understand what you need. Erection of workshop for project 20 square meters. So you have to break down all these budgets coherently and actually correctly that this is for this is for this, and this is for just the way you do maybe an invoice or something like. This is another example of a budget breakdown of a sample proposal to budget of a full proposal. It's not very legible and very clear, but I just left it there because it's also important. You can see the supplies and rice 500 grams, 600,000, guinea corn 300 grams, beans 250. So you have to spell out everything. You can see the equipment. We have them twin scope, 2,500 hat roster, 1.5 ceiling machine. All these things must be stated, you understand me, clearly and outrightly. So then forming a research team, very important. Because when you have a good proposal and you've written it down, there were instances that you will find that there are areas in that proposal that you yourself as the PI will not be, you are not an expert in that discipline, especially if you are proposal of research that is interdisciplinary and it is or multidisciplinary. And most funders encourage research that are in that nature. Maybe I'm doing a research that is biomedical in nature, but it requires an input of an environmentalist, or it requires an input of an electrical engineer, or it requires an input of somebody that is in humanities, maybe a business administrator or maybe an economist. I must bring that person into the team. I must bring that person into the team and check that this person will handle that aspect of the proposal. Don't be over greedy that I want to have it all. No, include as many collaborators as you have. And in fact, collaboration helps build the strength of your proposal. Because when there are a lot of people that have the needed expertise on your team, it woo your funders to see that yes, this team will be able to deliver this proposal. So you should have co-investigators or co-PIs to provide technical and field expertise. That besides the PI who leads the project, co-researchers or co-investigators or co-PIs are people that have technical expertise that you, the PI, do not have. Or maybe even if you have, you can augment that technical expertise of yours. So then collaborators, other institutions, consultants, NGOs, you may be doing a research that you are going into a community, and maybe having access to that community will be difficult if you don't have access to a particular NGO that the community knows. Engage that NGO into the research team because the NGO will be the lead for you to go to the research, or maybe a consultant that is already vast in that area, and so on and so forth. Then don't forget to also don't make your research team only top loaded, that is only professors, doctors, maybe experts that are in the team. No, you have to have a mix because funders want sustainability. They want this research to continue even if you exit. They want you to use that research to build and develop future researchers that will be able to access this funding. And that's why the issue of including students, mentees, and assistants comes in. So you must have lower level staff in your team that are either your students or they are your mentees or they are just assistants, maybe technicians or technical staff that will be there, that will be trained, you understand me? And then they will help you with the field data and lab work. And by so doing, also getting their own training. That is what makes a strong research. It has a mix of experts and also trainers, people that are undergoing training that will subsequently become the next batch of researchers. So then monitoring and evaluation. Very important because you must be able to monitor and evaluate as you are performing this research. Most progress report will request that, and even your final report will also request that. So you have to define indicators at the onset of research. What are my indicators? E.g., number of farmers trained, reports published, conferences attended, journals published. These are indicators. Set milestones like key performance indicators. Key indicators. If KPIs, actually, I say KIPs, KPIs, key performance indicators, and responsibilities. What are my milestones? What have I achieved? For example, in the research we are talking about developing an easy-to-use therapeutic food. The first milestone is to understand the status of the student with of the children with respect to malnutrition in the resettlement camp. That's the first milestone. Then the next milestone is to develop the EUTF. Then the next milestone to see whether this EUTF will be acceptable or adaptable to these children. Will these children even use it? Will their mothers accept it? And then the next milestone, whether it has impact. Was it able to reverse or prevent them from being malnourished? So these milestones are the monitoring and evaluation milestones. You have to set them one after the other. So if, for example, the research is halfway and you are writing a progress report, you must show the milestone you have achieved. And that's your key performance indicator at that stage, that I've achieved this milestone. I'm waiting to achieve this. Then use tools to show this. Don't just write them with words and paragraphs. Use reports. Show them in surveys. Show field visits that you have performed. Pictures, pictorial diagrams, and tables that shows these data of the milestones and the indicators to you are actually funders. Then expected impact and dissemination. Describe who benefits and how it aligns with funders. Very, very important. Because many people used to have problems with expected impact because they will say, we've not yet performed the research. How would we know the results? Yes, but at proposal level, you should be anticipating what I'm expecting. So you should be able to state that this is my expectation, and that my expectation, these are the people that will benefit from this expectation, and it aligns with the funder's priorities. For example, if we say for the EUTF, if we successfully produce an EUTF that is able to reverse malnutrition under five in the several who under five children that are in underserved communities will benefit from this. And that aligns with the funders' priority because they wanted to reduce the level of malnutrition in children, particularly under five in the nation, particularly in Northwest Nigeria. Then channels of dissemination. How do you disseminate the outcomes of the results, that's the impact, through workshops, policy briefs, journal publications, community radio, community engagement, etc. and etc. You must show in your proposal that when I get this expected result and the expected impact, this is how I intend to disseminate them. And it should be something that is clear and somebody will understand. Yes, that once you disseminate, this will reach the target community. Then results, example, results would inform agricultural policy in Kaduna. So maybe an example of a research. You just say that the result of this research will inform agricultural policy in Kaduna State. That if this research result is out, that result will be able to inform or direct a policy change in agriculture in Kaduna State. That will move your funders if there are people that wanted to promote agriculture in Kaduna State. So then sustainability, planning, and scalability. Funders want you to show that when you do this research does not end there. It's continuous, it's sustainable, and it's also scalable. Maybe if you do it as a pilot project in New Bamali Polytechnic, it can be scaled and applied across all polytechnics in Nigeria. If it is maybe a 1-ton capacity thresher, it can be scaled to a 10-ton capacity thresher. So can the project continue after the grant? You have to show, yes, that and how. How can it continue? That means when they finish funding and the fund ended, how will this project end, continue? Maybe you can say maybe it's a project is have a commercial tendency. Investors will come in and invest and will understand established factories that will continue producing this product and selling it, and that's how it continues, and so on and so forth. Is the outcome of this research scalable or adaptable? Can it be scaled? Can it be adaptable to other clients or other committees? You must show if it is, how can it be scalable? How can it be adaptable? Then community involvement, government adoption, private partnership. Will the community accept to be involved in your research, especially if you are doing a community-based research? Will government adopt your outcomes? Will they be willing to accept your outcomes? And will you get private partnerships after the end of this research? Will there be investors? Will there be people that will be interested, you understand me, to partner with you to promote this research and take it to the next level? All this you should be able to show in your sustainability, planning, and scalability heading. Then example, establishing community-led water hygiene and sanitation teams. For example, you want to show the community involvement. You say that in the research, we are going to establish a community-led water and hygiene sanitation teams. It's a sanitation team, but it's community-led. That means community are being involved. So then next, ethics and regulatory consideration. Very, very important because most funders will want to know that you have the required ethical clearance. Institutional review board, IRB approvals. Most institutions, universities, research institutions, polytechnics have an IRB board that will review your proposal and feel it aligns with ethical consideration of the ethical standard of the institution, and they'll give you a certificate of IRB approval. Most society will require that. Some will require even National Health Research Ethics Committee to approve it. Maybe if it is a research that have been a national outcome, maybe a research of immunization, or maybe mass nutritional exercise or something like that. So it may require National Research Ethics Committee. Data protection and informed consent. It is a rather informed data collection. And people that will be enrolled with or without their knowledge, do they consent? Are they aware? Do they agree? Then you should also pay attention to plagiarism, the issue of copy and paste, and unethical use of AI. We are in the age of using AI. AI can draft proposals for you, but most funders will even outrightly tell you that your proposal should not be having so percentage of AI input or something like that. So you must pay attention to that and use AI maybe objectively and ethically. So you should pay attention to the request of your funders and know how you use AI and pay attention to plagiarism too. Because mostly, maybe some of your forward, the first thing it will be subject to plagiarism test. And if it is a copy and paste work, a lot of plagiarism will pop up and you may be outrightly rejected. Then common pitfalls to avoid, which is just from experiences and of copy and paste proposal from unrelated course. So some people will just draft a proposal, and because maybe they knew that proposal, they will just be copying and pasting. They'll just copy and be pasting without changing anything from unrelated course that are not even related to this one. So you have to, or submitting proposal without aligning to the core requirement. I've earlier said that it is important that even when you submit a proposal and it is being rejected, it doesn't mean that you cannot submit it. There will be another call, you can improve it and submit. But make sure you align it to the requirements of that second call you are submitting. Some people keep on submitting one proposal to different calls without aligning them to the requirement. And that will make the proposal always fail. Then unrealistic budget and timelines. Once your budget are not realistic, or your timelines are not actually realistic, outrightly the proposal will be rejected. Jargon without clarity. Even so many jargons in your write-ups without being clear about write-ups and then typos and grammatical errors. This is very, very important, and a lot of researchers overlook that. They feel that is something that at least somebody will understand. If you are a person that do a lot of grammatical errors, if you are a person that do a lot of typographical errors, spelling errors, if you are a person that will not clearly put your paragraphs as you're supposed to be, you will not align your paragraphs, you will not do your headings well aligned, you will not align your font sizes, you have to ensure that if you are submitting a proposal, you are able to do that very well. And there are so many things you can use to check your grammars and to check your your spelling errors and so on and so forth. And then finally, missing deadlines. You have to understand deadlines. Once funders tell you deadlines for submission of this, you have to submit before that deadline. And don't allow the deadline to reach the deadline. Maybe if the deadline is today's midnight, try and submit 2 or 3 days before that. Mostly when the deadline comes, there will be a lot of friction, maybe with internet connectivity, maybe too many traffic on the submission platform, and so many issues and so many problems. And so try as much as possible to meet up with deadlines. Then understanding the review criteria, because that after submitting, the next thing, your proposal will go for review, and that is what determines whether your research will be accepted and funded or otherwise. And I said it clearly, for a research to come out of a review process, it must be outstanding. It must be competitive, it must be the best. You can see the picture we have there. It's an outstanding out of thousands or out of hundreds of submissions. Yours must be outstanding, must be novel. So how do you make it novel? Significance of the problem. That the problem is very, very significant. Innovation and originality. The solution you are bringing to solve the problem is innovative and it's original. It's not something that you are copying from somebody. It's something that is original from you and it is innovative. Feasibility of the method. The method you are deploying are feasible. They are achievable. Experts in the field know that these methods can be performed. Then capacity of the team. The team is capable. Your research team have all the people that you require to be on the team to handle each and every aspect of the proposal. Then value for money. That is the money you are asking, if you're asking for 30 million or 20 million naira, 50 million naira, does that value of money align with the result or the impact you are going to produce? Your funders are interested in that. Then funders, reviewers need to be convinced beyond reasonable doubt. You must convince your reviewer that beyond reasonable doubt, you can be able to do this research and they will get value for the money they are giving you. Otherwise, they will not fund it. Global statistics, only 10% of submitted proposals get funded, 90% get rejected. I've stated this before now, but we should not be discouraged. You can be among this 10% or even the 5% if you follow these criteria I spelled out very reasonably and very, very clearly. The useful tools and resources that you can use in writing. When you are writing, if you are passing that there's a lot of grammar errors, spelling errors, you can use Grammarly, Hemingway, Quillbot. All these things will help you put your grammar in order and your spelling errors. Reference, you can use the Tero Mendeley. Planning, how you plan to do the Terolo, Asana, Gantt project. All these, if you check them online, they are apps, they are available. Some are paid, some are free actually. Collaboration, Google Docs, Zoom, ResearchGate, when you need to get people that you want to collaborate or you want to collaborate, all meetings for the research, you can use Teams, you can use Google Docs, ResearchGate, and so on to collaborate because you may be having a team that you are here, your next collaborator is in Sokoto, another one is even in Ghana or in US or in UK. That doesn't stop you from achieving your research objectives. And you must not always travel and meet. You can use this kind of platform to always connect and share documents and so on and so forth. So final tips, finally. So start early. When there is call for application and you see that the call is expiring in the next 3 or 4 months, don't say, I will not start writing this proposal until it is 2 or 3 weeks. That's a recipe for failure. Start early, revise often. Keep on writing, and even when you finish, revise. Because every day you come and revise, you see that there are things you can correct. Read guidelines thoroughly and abide by them strictly. Once you don't abide with guidelines of a funding call, forget it. You must abide with each and every guideline. They say a beggar has no choice. In this context, you are a beggar because you are begging for money. Ask for help. Find a mentor. Seek peer reviews. When you finish writing, you have followed the guidelines religiously. Don't just sit on it. Ask for help. Find somebody that is a mentor that you think maybe can help you. Seek your colleagues to peer review and read through and help you. Then think big, but stay realistic. Think big, but be very realistic. Don't be so over ambitious. Focus on impact and value for success, not the funding. Don't be so much concerned about the 30 or 40 or 50 million. Be more concerned about the impact and the value of the impact. Once you focus on the problem and the solution, you will definitely get the funding. But if you focus on the funding, you miss the value and the impact and you will not get the funding. Never give up because of rejection. So if you submit a proposal and you are rejected, don't give up, don't feel rejected. Keep on perfecting and trying. You will succeed some way, somehow. Once you keep on doing it and doing it again, you succeed somewhere. So think big, start small, go national, then global. So what I'm trying to say here is start at your own institution, at your school or department. Don't say I must start at the national or in the global level. Start small, think big, but start small. And ideas are You can form a peer research team at your department or your school, organize monthly writing sessions, attend webinars and proposal clinics with a mentor, encourage mentorship between junior and senior staff, join national and international organization consortiums and research teams, attend conferences, webinars, symposiums, and seminars. That one you must if you wanted to become an expert in that area. Try travel grants. If you wanted to attend it and you don't have funding, look for travel grants and be able to attend them. Keep perfecting your grantmanship capabilities. Start with small grants, then you move on. Start with the smaller grants, then you move on to bigger and bigger and bigger, and the success will be yours. So thank you all for listening, and I think that's the end of the presentation, and maybe there is room for some question and answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful presentation. We really appreciate
Thank you so much, Doctor.
So sai da mun wallahi ku ya kuri ban gama wannan abun ba. Ko ka dauko mulki na a mota ka tafi. Kila sai ka tafi. Ba mu gama ba.
Okay, so the participant, please, if you have any questions, you can ask so we can quickly round up.
So people can also type their question in the chat box if there is any. If, they couldn't ask. So no questions, no comments, maybe on contributions, if there are any.
Thank you very much, sir, for the presentation. We learned a lot. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I've seen a question in the chat box that says, please, is there a site to access previously funded grants? That's you mean grants that have been previously funded. I don't know whether I think on the TechFund website they used to publish the previously funded NRF grants. Yeah, I've seen. I don't know whether it is from their website actually that it's been, but I believe it's on their website and been downloaded. Normally, when they fund, they publish the previously funded grants, and many funders too do. When you go to their website, you see the grant they previously funded. In fact, some funders, when they even make a call, they used to organize a webinar or a seminar purposely for that call, trying to guide. Trying to guide applicants on how they can be able to apply for this grant and iterating the guidelines and the requirements, the eligibility, and so on and so forth. So it's available, but not on a specific website, on the website of the funders themselves, from my knowledge, actually. So thank you very much. All the other ones are appreciation. I've not seen another question again on the chat box. So no other